The Psychology of Becoming a Socially Confident Introvert, written and created by Audiobook Mantra. This audiobook is not about changing who you are. It is about unlocking who you have always been beneath the fear, beneath the hesitation, beneath the silence that was never weakness, but protection. Because introversion was never the problem, misunderstanding it was. You were not born lacking confidence. You were born with a nervous system that observes deeply, that thinks carefully, that feels intensely. But in a world that rewards loudness over clarity, speed over depth, and noise over presence, you were taught to see your quiet nature as a limitation. This audiobook will show you the truth. Confidence is not the ability to speak loudly. It is the ability to remain internally stable while being seen. Social confidence is not about becoming extroverted. It is about becoming unafraid of your own presence. Because the most powerful people in any room are not always the loudest. They are the calmest, the most grounded, the most internally certain. This audiobook will teach you how to develop that certainty, not by forcing yourself to become someone else, but by mastering your internal state. Because when you master your internal state, you master how others perceive you. And when you master perception, you master influence. This is not the psychology of becoming louder. This is the psychology of becoming unshakable. This is shy to shining. Introduction. The lie you were taught about being introverted. At some point in your life, you learned to associate silence with weakness. You learned that speaking less meant having less to say. You learned that hesitation meant inadequacy. You learned that confidence belonged to others, to those who spoke effortlessly, to those who dominated conversations, to those who never seemed afraid of attention. And slowly, without realizing it, you began to step back. You began to observe instead of participate. You began to think instead of speak. You began to protect yourself from exposure, not because you lacked intelligence, not because you lacked value, but because your nervous system prioritized safety. Safety from judgment, safety from rejection, safety from uncertainty. This protective instinct became your identity. You began to believe you were shy. You began to believe you were socially weak. You began to believe you were less capable. But this belief was never truth. It was conditioning. Because introversion is not a limitation, it is a nervous system orientation. Introverts process the world differently. They observe more. They analyze more. They internalize more. They do not react quickly, not because they cannot, but because they do not need to. Their strength is internal stability, but without understanding this strength, introverts often misinterpret their own silence. They mistake emotional sensitivity for weakness. They mistake caution for incapability. They mistake observation for inadequacy. This misunderstanding creates internal conflict. Part of you wants to express yourself. Part of you wants to remain invisible. Part of you wants to participate. Part of you wants to remain protected.